Wednesday night action, Eastern Michigan, Kent State. Kent State 7.5 point home favorites, 61 being the total in this game. Kent State, as we mentioned, rolling past Bowling Green 40-6 last week. But again, keep in mind, Matt McDonald, 1 interception. Keep in mind, Bowling Green also had multiple fumbles lost in that game. It was really a turnover situation. If you look statistically, 25-21 in first downs for Kent State. They ended up having 415 total yards. Bowling Green had a little over 300. So, yeah, Kent State definitely was the better team, and it's statistically a little bit the better team, but not to the extent of a 40-6 final score. Like I said, a lot of Bowling Green turnovers there, mistakes, points left on the board. We'll see how they fare here. Keep in mind, prior to that Bowling Green game, they had been a point spread disaster, Kent State. They had failed to cover in 5 straight games, and their only victories were an overtime win against Ohio as 13-point favorites, and then the Akron game, 16-point favorites. They won 33-27. So this has been a team struggling to win games at all for a long time, let alone winning by margin prior to that blowout win against Bowling Green last week. So very important to keep that in mind here as they lay 7. And all Eastern Michigan does in the underdog role, and it's been this way for years under Chris Creighton, the head coach, is cover numbers. I mean, it's uncanny. Toledo, 4-point dogs, lose by 3. 2.5-point dogs at Ball State win the game outright. 4-point dogs at Western Michigan win the game outright. What are they at? Perfect 3-0. This ATS as MAC underdogs here in conference play this year. So you know what I'm doing with an Eastern Michigan game. I'm usually looking at the underdog, whether it's EMU, whether it's their opponent, and that's what I'm doing here. I like Eastern Michigan here getting a touchdown against now an overvalued Kent State team that feasted on turnovers last week against Bowling Green. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, you look at it, them as a dog is the way to go. Even Eastern Michigan, we talked about last week, they got backdoored there by Akron. Akron covered that game. Don't take them as a favorite. And now I have 7.5 here. I got to take the 7.5. There's no way that game you just mentioned, we just talked about with Bowling Green, the 46. The turnovers, the field position. Kent State has a horrible defense. You can't lay numbers with a shitty defense like that. That's very sloppy. And Eastern Michigan doesn't do really anything great, Ian, but they just kind of just get everything done. They run it okay. They throw it okay. Their defense at times can make stops, even though they're leaky. But I got to take this plus 7.5 right now with Eastern Michigan. I think they can cover this number.
Yeah, their offensive numbers, you're right, they're not great. Hell, their defensive numbers really aren't that great. They're mediocre on both sides of the ball, but they just find ways to make enough plays to hang in a lot of games, and that's why they have been so good. And their quarterback actually is getting a little bit better. Austin Smith at the quarterback spot for them. He's still not got a great completion rate for the year, but we have seen some improvement here the last few weeks. A couple of these games, the Ball State game, I thought was a better game from him, more efficient. Akron last week, a little bit better. It's still sketchy, and they got the run game going as well with Samson Evans last week. So good signs for the offense. And
Kent State, real quick, they can't, in years past, they were a lot better at home as a favorite, but I think they're going off that in the big win last week. So yeah, give me over the touchdown here.
All right. Both of us lean into the EMU Eagles here and their preferred point spread role, which is definitely as underdog.